Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise. And we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer and listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. I welcome you to another exciting episode of Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We do our best to share life-changing business and life education in this program. We seek to enthuse and to inspire, as we always say. But please, before we go further, please strike that subscribe button. Please just hit that button. My guest is Mrs. Tumelo Leene. Mrs. Tumelo, Queen Leene to be exact. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah, tell the viewers about yourself, background, education, etc.
Okay, just to be brief, my professional background, I'm a chartered accountant and I have a master's in financial management. I have worked as an accountant, as an internal auditor for the longest of my work life. And currently, I'm a lecturer at the Tumelo College.
Yeah.
Yes. But other than that, I am the founder and CEO of the Conscious Parent, an organization called the Conscious Parent, which helps parents to relate well with their children and build thriving relationships.
Okay. All right. Tell us about the training, because you mentioned accounting. So you're a chartered accountant?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a chartered accountant.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that aspect of training, where you trained, etc.
Oh, okay. I studied at Botswana Accountancy College for some part of it, and then the rest of it was self-study.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which universities you studied?
I did my master's, Botswana Accountancy College for ACCA,
Mm-hmm.
and then my master's I was doing with Bokodo.
Okay.
Yes.
What is conscious parenting? Let's define the topic first.
Conscious parenting really is a parent being conscious and aware of themselves and helping the child that they are raising to be aware of who they are. And in that, they walk this journey of parent-child relationship together with awareness, with consciousness of where they want to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
That implies that there's an unconscious parenting. What is unconscious parenting? If
Okay.
there's such a thing.
I would call it traditional parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional parenting is just this way that maybe I and you have been raised, where a parent would raise a child based on the way that they have been raised. You know, this was done to me and therefore I should do this to my child. And it is mainly based on the view that a child is there to be controlled and to be fixed, to be aligned with what I as a parent think is good for them. So there is that element of fixing and controlling, and even when we discipline or when we correct, we do it in line with what we think is good for the child based on what we have been taught by our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And in terms of traditional parenting, one could argue that it worked and some of us have turned out okay, that it's 100% effective. Why should we change it?
Okay, well, I think it's a subjective matter to be saying that we have come out okay. Are we really okay? You know, the fact that we are successful financially, or the fact that we are CEOs or we are managers, does it really mean that we are okay? Because really traditional parenting is all about getting us to that level where we are successful, in terms of maybe material things. But you find people in organizations who are adults, yes, and they have this, like bullies. We find bullies in the organization. Yes, they are CEOs or they are HODs or they are whatever, but they have certain elements in them that shows that something is really lacking with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the organization you formed, when was it formed and where was the real need that you are addressing? But first, let's talk about when it was formed.
Okay, it was formed in 2018. 2018, after I had a certain experience where thieves broke into our house. And when I looked at those thieves, I wondered what happened.
At night?
Yes, at night. It was around 2 a.m. in October of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So they broke in, they came in. Of course, they called everybody to our bedroom, the children and the helper. And they took out the knives and everything. And they told us to bring the cell phones, the laptops, every valuable that we had in the house. So for me, when they did all those things, I just wondered what happened to these children. They used to be very innocent children, I believe, when they were born. Now they are here robbing people. So my thing there was, or my take home or my assignment there was, how we raise children really has an impact on how they turn out to be. So we need to be conscious and aware of what we say, how we act, how we really respond to our children's needs,
mm-hmm.
so that they turn out to be
responsible
citizens. Yes. Like Michael Jackson's song, Heal the World and Make It a Better Place. The sick world really is not the world or the buildings. It is the people living in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And how affected are they? You know, and what caused that behavior that we see and that we call it a sick world?
Did you engage them in conversation, these thieves, to get to a point where you realized something was wrong?
I couldn't. I couldn't. I was just thinking inside of my heart, and I'm really glad. I think maybe they're coming to our house to do that. It was just to bring that awakening inside of me to say, this is what you need to do. Because that is when now I was like, okay, so I need to make other parents aware of this thing.
So is the organization intended to intervene before people become criminals, or?
Yeah, before because it's better to build than to rectify when the building is already there. You know. So it is just to encourage those who are starting to do it right before the damage is done.
So what's happening on the ground with this organization?
Currently, I just coach parents on individual basis to help them with their children. And I also hold workshops for the teenage children because I mainly focus on parents who are raising teenagers. So I also hold workshops for teenagers. Sometimes I get invited to speak at BTV, just, for interviews like this one. Yes.
And what's the organization made of? Who's part of it? Is there one woman?
Currently it is just me, and I believe it will grow as the vision grows.
Okay.
Yes.
And what activities precisely are you engaged in?
With the organization.
Yes.
Like I said, it's because I'm also full-time at another job, so it is just me being maybe live on my Facebook, engaging the community on Facebook, mainly Facebook.
Okay.
And sharing the content and what is in my heart about conscious parenting, other than those that come one-on-one or maybe the invitations that I get, such as these ones.
Okay. Tell us about your one-on-ones. Does it cost money? How do you go about it?
Of course, it costs money, but I charge for I have a program that I take parents through. Yes, it's a 6 months program. We meet like once a month, and then you go and do whatever that we have agreed. I teach, and then you go and implement. We meet again, and then just like that.
Okay, you are GMT certified coach.
Yes.
And family coach. Tell us about that certification.
Okay, I'm a member of the John Maxwell team, leadership team, and I have also enrolled as a parenting and family coach within the John Maxwell. So I got certified last year, I think around July. Yeah. So I've been doing the certification program since the time that I got to know what I needed to do. So now I have finished the certification. I've been awarded a certificate as a certified family and parenting coach.
Okay. And are you able to say what the biggest challenges are in our families? First of all, is there a lot of dysfunction in our families here in Botswana? And if there is, what is the biggest source of dysfunction?
Well, I think with the experience that I have seen, or with the parents that I've engaged with, even just around, there's a lot of misfunction or malfunction within families. And the reason why it is like that, it is because we don't understand our role as parents, but we think we do, but we don't understand our role as parents. And because of that, we take our children as if they are something that we own, that we can control and try to fix. And now when they grow up to a certain age, they form a resistance. They rebel, they resist to what we want them to do as how we think it should be done. And then because of that, that's when the problems begin. And they do that because now as they grow, they also find their own interests. They also find who they are. And then with what you want for a child as a parent and with what the child wants for themselves, there's always a friction, and this is what causes the malfunctions and the fights and all that within families. Also because us as parents, we really don't know who we are. You know, yeah, we haven't really found ourselves, and we are just defined by a lot of things, and we want to project that to our children.
Two questions arise from that. It's quite a mouthful what you shared. First is the role of parents, and secondly is who we are.
Yes.
Are you able to help us understand those questions? Let's start with the role of parent.
Okay, as a parent, you need to know that your role is to guide your child, is to be a mentor to your child. And very importantly, that your child has their own path that they need to walk in. It is a path that you also as a parent need to find out, because it doesn't come in black and white. It is within your child. And the child even understands it better than you. So your role is to help that child become that which they have been created to be, and find themselves and be authentic in who they are.
And where you pointing a finger at traditional parenting, and yet you hear a lot of opinion leaders and influential people saying we should go back to our traditional ways. How do you reconcile that dichotomy?
Well, I think for me, we need to know what works. It is not about going back or going forward or going anywhere. It is about bringing a solution to the problems that we have. Because like I said, when there is that misalignment between a child and a parent, the child will always resist and be deemed to be defiant, be deemed to be a misbehaving child. We see them at schools. And when you get to the bottom of it, you'll find that they are not happy at home. So really, if being raising them in a traditional way really helps them to be fulfilled as people, then fine. But it has proven, it has shown, not proven, it has shown with the way that our children are behaving that something is not right. We are not doing something right.
Or maybe we think we are raising them traditionally, but we're not. We've missed the mark.
Okay, maybe traditional is just the terminology, but whatever that we are doing, yeah, something has to be done.
Okay. Can you give examples, specific examples of where you intervened? What was the status quo, and what then became of your intervention? What was the result? Can you give examples without necessarily mentioning names?
Okay. Hey, it's been several instances, but hey, there was a case where, of course, a parent would think that a child is defiant. And usually when the parents come, they think they come to report the child. Okay? So they come to report the child, and then you sit down with the parent, really, what is going on? No, this child, I don't want to go into specific because
you won't mention names, but you can go.
They will know, or you talked about me.
No, they might not know, because most families is the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
The same issue.
Okay.
Issues.
Okay. So one parent came. They had a problem with their child. The child was it was a boy, so a teenage boy. So this child was just an angry child, a defiant child, speaking back at the mother, and the mother was thinking that no, something is wrong with this child. And I talked to the mother. I went into the mother and asked her, how were you raised? Because the mother was afraid that the child is going to become like the brother who the mother spoiled. So they were doing everything within their power to help this child not to become like the brother who was spoiled. So now, instead of looking at the child for who they are and meeting their needs where they were, now he's being compared with the brother to the mother, the uncle. So I talked to him and asked him, so how was your brother? So do you see now that you are now taking your brother and your mother's affairs into your affairs and the child's affairs? And this is now not helping the child. Because he wants to be seen for who he is. He wants to be heard, and he wants his needs to be addressed as a person, uniquely as a person. So now this child now, because the mother was denying him certain things, he would want this, the mother would compare with. He was just raising him out of fear. But the moment he now went out of that, I mean, when she, not he, when the mother went out
she realized.
When she realized that, okay, let me just see my child for who it is. There was a lot of improvement on the boy. He was even sleeping out, not staying at home, Because I was asking her, but when you are with this child, despite you telling her about the uncle issues, don't you think that this child loves you? Doesn't he respect you? Doesn't he clean the house or do what? No, he does. The problem now comes in when this issue comes in. Yeah. So it's a whole lot of things. But right now, the mother got to understand, and he's able to help the child, or help herself rather.
How many meetings or sessions does it take to get to that aha moment where the problem is resolved?
Okay, the aha moment can happen instantly, but now the transformation is a process. Transformation is a process because already how you do things is already built in the subconscious. That is why I always, in my sessions, deal with the parent first before we put in the child. Yes, because the parent is the one who has the way that they believe things should be done. The environment has shaped their way of thinking and everything. So we need to deal with that first before we go to the child.
There's a sense in which you need to be a child psychologist to do this job, isn't it?
I guess.
Or a psychologist, period.
Me?
Yes, I mean there's an element of having to be a psychologist, dealing with egos and so on.
Yeah, but I think for me, I remember when I was still an accountant some years back, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and she told me, you chose the wrong career. Because even before conscious parenting came into picture, so it was way back, I think in 2006. Yeah. And she told me, I think you chose the wrong career. You must have done psychology.
And accounting, such a tough,
Yeah.
tough career. You spend years perfecting the
Yeah.
craft, but you're still not getting away from it. You're still maintaining a double lane, so to
No,
speak.
I'm getting away.
Slowly.
Yes, because I really want to focus on what fulfills me.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the egos do come into play. Do you find that the ego's problem comes more from the parent side generally, or from the child's side, or it's just a clash of egos?
I think the ego really sometimes is a way of protecting something that is inside of you as a person. So usually it comes first from the parent, and then they project it on the child, and it starts building now on the child. So if you are a person of ego as a parent, you are likely to raise a child with ego. If you are an angry parent, you are likely to raise an angry child. That is why I'm saying, let us deal with ourselves. Let us deal with our egos, of issues of anger and everything, so that we are like authentic and true to who we are as parents. And then we can now give the gift to our children. They will see how we do things, and they will do the same. Because our children, they don't need to hear us talk. They need to see us do.
They're more interested in action.
They're more interested in action. Even if you talk, no, you must be kind to your brother. Be kind to your brother. And then you, as the parent, you take your brother or your child and you do something opposite to kindness. They're going to see the action. They're going to hear the action than the words that you speak.
Okay. Now, the government has a role to play, doesn't it, in ensuring that the at least at an education level, the child is exposed to the right curriculum and so on. Do you think there's more that needs to be introduced in the curriculum to assist in the upbringing of these children?
Yeah, I think to the curriculum at schools, because now we are dealing with children, issues of empowerment. They should really be taught how to be empowered, how to thrive in themselves, because really they don't have control over who raises them and how they raise them. But at least if when they get to school, they are empowered in such a way that, you know what, the fact that your mother or your father is behaving in a certain way, or is beating you, or is abusing you, does not mean that you need to turn out that way. They have to be empowered in terms of strategies of how to deal with such issues. Yeah.
And are there any special characteristics for a parent who's not being conscious? Are there any special indications or telltale signs that you can share?
You will hear a parent saying, "Na ke gola."
When I
When
grew
you
up,
just hear that word, when I grew up, this is what was done to me. I will show you, you know. That is just the number one sign. And then, you know, our parents sometimes have this thing of not wanting to listen to children. They don't want to be questioned. When I grew up, I could not even ask my mother a question. When I tell you to do something and you ask me why, what is that? You are being disrespectful. I mean, just as an example, it's just a minor example, isn't it? So this is what parents do. They don't allow their children to question. And when you do that to a child, you bottle them up. You close them in a bottle, and they will be afraid of asking. And then you will see a child who will succeed at school, but there will be that child who is just bottled up. The confidence has died. They go up, they work, but the confidence has died. They are clingy, they are what, you know. And for you as a parent, because they are successful and they are driving a certain type of car, you think, you know, I've raised a very good child. And yet the child inside is not happy or has issues.
And does it later manifest itself? Does it then become a problem later for that child?
It does because I think the most important thing for every person is to really be fulfilled in who they are, not in what they have.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned the telltale signs for parents. What are the telltale signs for a child that this child is not being brought up by a conscious parent? What sort of signs and symptoms will you be seeing?
You know, those children that we hear of nowadays, there's this trend that we hear at schools, children beating up teachers and beating other students, bullies and all those things. That is a clear sign of unconscious parenting on that child. Yes. And you find that children who are just well disciplined, who understand who they are, and they can just run away. I was talking to one of my friends, my son's friends yesterday. My son had not come back from school. So I was just telling them, you know what, sometimes you are better as a coward than as a hero who will be in trouble. You know, because they were telling me, they're pre-teenagers, they were telling me, you know, as a teenager, you can't be running away from things. You need to confront them. And I was like, confront and then what? Those people that you are afraid will laugh at you, they will not be there when you get into trouble.
When you're in hospital.
Or when you're in hospital, you've lost your eye. Because we're trying to prove a point that you are not a coward. You are better off as a coward who is not in trouble and who has both their eyes.
Yeah, that's true. Now, we want to raise these children who in a conscious way. Can you give examples in your own family setting? What unique things are you doing or have you introduced to really be different, to do it right, as it were, as a conscious parent?
Okay, first and foremost, with me, was to find me, was to deal with my luggage or baggage of how I was raised. I was raised by two beautiful parents. They did a very good job on me and the rest of my sisters. But of course, there are certain things that I needed to look into. You know, how we were compared as children. You know, or something, you know, those things.
Yeah. You're not like boss mama.
Yes. Such things would even sometimes cause sibling rivalry, even when children are grown up. You will see them fighting over who gets the first house, who does that. There's that competition.
Which started from childhood.
Which started from being compared as children. So at home, I give my children the liberty to be who they are. It is my role. I have made it my responsibility to really find the uniqueness in my children and acknowledge them with their own uniqueness and appreciate them, tell them that there is greatness. Every time I tell them, my son, there is greatness in you. I am raising 4 boys, by the way. 2 of which are teenagers and the other ones are still small. So they are free to come to me. I've opened those communication channels with them. They
were afraid or they're still afraid?
No, they're not afraid.
They're not afraid. Okay.
They're free. Okay. Oh, they're free to come to me.
Yeah.
We chat, we laugh. You know. Of course, those who are teenagers, they have their own challenges because teenagers really are dealing with a lot. Sometimes even not from home, from outside. They have societal pressure, they have peer pressure, they have all sorts of pressures. And they come home and they are stressed. As a parent, instead of responding to their stress, asking them, how was your day? And they bang the door, maybe at you, or they talk back at you. Instead of responding, you react. So, you are talking back at me. And yet your child is dying inside. They need you to come up and be there for them. But obviously they will not just come and tell you right away. You need to dig in. Be the parent and not be the child. Know that the child does not have any intention of hurting you or of disrespecting you as a parent. They have all the intentions to be good children. It's just that they are faced with challenges. And like any other person, when you are stressed, you can react in a certain way.
Okay.
So with my children at home, that's how we do it. We talk, we do everything, and yeah.
A lot of people would say that now it looks like the children are taking over in your house. I mean, they're calling the shots. You're abandoning your role as the head of the family, and you know, how do you respond to that?
Yes, I want to say this, that as much as we need to hear our children, as much as we need to see that our children for who it is they are, and really help them in becoming that, we are the parents. We are the older ones. We know the values. We know manners. They may not know. They need us to teach them. So there are those ground rules that we need to lay down. There are those boundaries that we need to set in our homes. Because at the end of this is your home. But the difference comes in now when, because it is your home, you want to control even the person in your child. Yes. Because these things, you do the dishes, they've got nothing to do with the person in your child. They have to do the dishes. They have to clean the house. They have to make their beds. They have to study. And it's got nothing to do with the person in them. So those are the boundaries that you need to set. And make sure that if they overstep the boundaries, there are consequences. And how we set the boundaries also matters. Do we engage them as we set the boundaries, or it is my way or the highway? You know.
Shouldn't there be then individual roles? I mean, you say my way or the highway. Shouldn't there be somebody who has the final word on matters? And how do you enforce that arrangement? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, when I said my way or the highway, I meant like when you say to a child, because they're human beings, they also, like we talked about respect, you also need to respect them as human beings. The fact that they're children does not mean we should just step on them as we like.
No.
Yes. So when I said my way or the highway, it's when you have not maybe communicated something to your child. And maybe they're questioning you, but why do you think I should do this? And you say, don't even. I said you must do it, whether you like it or not, my way or the highway. That's what I meant. So really we need to, even when we set the rules in the house, we need to engage them, respect them as human beings, you know, and teach them that they must, because when we do that, they will also now know that another person is respected. You don't just force yourself into another person.
I'll give you an example with my daughter. Sometimes we sense that she gives us a lot of side eye, a lot of negative body language, a lot of eye rolling and that kind of stuff. How does a parent to respond when a teenager behaves that way?
I think those eye rollings, I always say any behavior that you see your child doing, whether it's eye rolling, whether it's banging of doors, whether it's something, get to the bottom of it. Don't concentrate on the outward behavior.
Only.
Get to the, why are they rolling eyes? Nana, why are you rolling your eyes? They may not say. But for you is to pause. You are inclined as a parent to get angry or shout. But when you do that, you are reacting, and it's not going to help this child, and neither is it going to help you. So you need to respond, pause, take a deep breath, or okay, it's not about me. They've got no intention of disrespecting me. Of course, sometimes it may seem like it's disrespect to you, but what I do personally with my children, when I see certain things, I ask myself, how can I be there for my child who is behaving in a certain way? How can I support my child? I can see my child is struggling with something. I may not know what it is, but what can I do to support them? And how I see that they're struggling with something is when they misbehave. Because when they're happy, then when there's no problem, they're happy. You know. And then when there's a problem, you start seeing defiant behavior.
Speaking of defiant behavior, we've seen patterns of, alcohol abuse and even drug use or abuse in certain families. How does a parent respond to such a thing? Because sometimes you see these things happening in families that seem to be very almost perfect, even families of pastors and things like that. What are your views on that?
Okay, when it it depends on what level it is at, because when it is at a very high level and it is just too much, then we need to engage therapists and all that. But when you realize it as a parent that I think my child is doing something that is not our principle here at home, or something that we don't do here, even for him, it is not good. We need to really know our children. Like I said, any behavior on your child must ring a bell. Ask yourself, dig in on the side, without even, just on the side. So engage your child, speak good things about your child. Tell them. I was saying to you that I tell my children that there's greatness in them. Even when I see them doing something that my mouth wants to say the opposite, I tell them, because they will hear it and it will stick in their mind. Whenever, maybe wherever, however, that they will be there, they will remember. But I think there's greatness in me. That those are powerful words to say to a child.
Okay.
So we see that happening in families or even of pastors. So really is to be there for your child. Don't judge your child. Don't tell them you are embarrassing us as a family. No. Why is your child doing that in the first place? How have you not been there for your child such that they went to seek solace in drugs and in alcohol? Because it means that you didn't do something as a parent. So I think we need to be in a position as parents where when children do the certain things, we ask ourselves, how have I not been there for my child? And what can I do to be there for my child? I've seen that transform children when we do that.
I've seen other parents going the other way, where they I don't know whether they're having a midlife crisis, but where somebody starts dressing differently, trying to be woke, trying to be to get along with their children. And there some dangers also to go all the way to behave like a teenager, to sort of over-identify with them.
I think what matters is really what is inside of you when you do that. Do you know who you are? Have you really gone to yourself inside and seen yourself that, am I a child, am I an adult, what am I, what is my position as a parent to this, if it's a daughter whom you are trying to dress like. And when you have known that and you dress like that, maybe for the sake of your child at that particular moment, you want to just be a friend to your child. I don't think there's anything wrong. But now when you are doing it because maybe you skipped a stage in life and you are now trying to compete with your daughter, that's when now you need to really do internal self-review and heal that inner child inside of you.
Okay. Now, go back to traditional parenting. I happen to be a headman in our Khotla, where I come from, in Kanye. So I have this fantasy of maybe trying to revive what used to work in the traditional Khotla system and the traditional upbringing system. And, the role of chiefs, trying to revive that, the role of Bukhoera, the role of the Khafela and things like that, trying to revive that in terms of raising that culture and then helping these children as well in the process, explaining to them what all these things mean. Do you think that there's a role for that, the cultural revival? Do you think it can help bridge the gap between parents and children?
I think we also need to understand. When I grew up, I learned that culture is dynamic. There are certain things that used to work in the past. because they were relevant for that time. Yes. When you take a nowadays child, really they don't make a lot of sense with the things that were done in the past. And really trying to take them there. Sometimes I even think that even the way, this is just my thinking,
Yes.
looking at what I
As
see.
a conscious parent.
Yes. I think even the way that God created our children, you know, because they may be coming through us, but they are not from us. Yes. Even the way that He created, shaped their brains, He shaped them to fit what is happening in this era. That is why you see a 2-year-old or a 2-month-old baby, when they get that phone, they will use it better than the way you use it as the owner. So my thinking is that I think the way our children, it is not scientifically proven.
Yeah, I know, but I've wondered about that myself.
Yes.
Whether there's something in the food now that makes them technologically
Yes. So I think they come with
advanced.
that. And I think because God knew how the world will be in 10 years' time or in 30, even how He creates us, He makes us relevant for that time. So when you try to take a technological child and you take them to Bohara to go on the mountains there, I think it will just be a waste of, personally, it will just be a waste of time.
Yes, but there are some aspects of our culture which we can still go back to. For instance, Dinani, storytelling, that culture around the fire, going to Masimo, that kind
Those
of thing.
are important. Those are very, very important. We must have those traditions in the home as families where we sit down together. We switch off our TVs, we switch off our gadgets, and we talk about anything, whether it is our past. I know my children loves to hear their father talk about how he grew up. They will just listen and ask questions. So we need to do that with our children.
So that they can be grounded.
That they can be grounded, yes. And it connects the family. It brings the family together.
Okay.
Not where all the time the boys are in their bedroom, each one is holding a gadget, mommy is holding a gadget, there's no connection.
Yeah. There's one aspect of your training which I haven't touched on when you did these parenting courses. You did one with Mind Valley and Dr. Shifali.
Yes.
Tell us about Mind Valley and Shifali. What is all that?
Mind Valley is an institution. It has various programs.
They're somewhere in Asia. And they're not based there.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it's based. I just know it's an online program. So they have various personal development courses, from parenting, entrepreneurship, everything. So I chose the parenting one, which was also taught by Dr. Shafali. Dr. Shafali is a clinical psychologist who also majors in issues of parenting. Yes. So
and what did you touch on in that course, Mind Valley one?
The Mind Valley one, since it was taught by Dr. Shafali, she is the one who has this philosophy of conscious parenting. So that is because also she's a psychologist. Yes, she's a clinical psychologist. So she brings all these aspects of conscious parenting in that course.
What was your aha moment during that course that really, made a difference, impacted you?
She talks about healing the inner child. That everything that we do, relationships that we get into, whether it's parent-child relationship, whether it's spouse, husband-wife relationship, whether it's boss-junior relationship, the main thing that will help you as a person is when you heal the inner child. And like I said, going down in yourself or going inside yourself and find healing for the wounds that you have been caused as a child or as a person and growing up in life. Yeah.
Do you think that's where it is really? The inner child always has something to do with it when things are going wrong. It's just a reflection of the inner child. Because I think this is something, I don't know whether it's Freudian, but there's a whole school psychology that emphasizes that if you fix the inner child, you fix everything.
Yeah, because when you know who you are, you become confident in who you are. You are not, the way you respond to issues or the way you respond to life in general is really at a very, what is the word? At a very high level that really brings a satisfaction to you. You are not intimidated by anything. Even when somebody says to you, for example, can you pick up that trash? You don't start saying, oh, so you are looking down upon me. You think I'm what. You are just going to say, okay, this is a can of tin. It doesn't belong here. So this person, this is how you will think. So this person is just asking me to pick it up so that this area can be clean. Not because they are looking down on me. Even if they are, you know. Yes, but the way you respond becomes different.
I think Maxwell is very strong on that. Even the word responsibility is your ability to respond.
Yes.
That's where the word responsibility, able to respond, comes from.
Yes.
And I think I've read in his books, in his presentations, that it's very, very important. It's more important to respond than to react. Yes. Just for the benefit of the viewer, what is the difference between the two?
To respond and to react. When you respond, you first think about what is in front of you, and you deliberately make a choice of how you are going to take it or how you are going to respond to what is in front of you. Because you have thought, you have analyzed, and now you deliberately choose, okay, I have a little understanding about this situation. Now I will act in this way. But when you respond, when you react, usually the reaction comes with the issue of ego. Your unfulfilled or unhealed child inside of you will tell you, say for example your child is banging the door or is what, you immediately lash because you think they're disrespecting you, they're doing this, and you immediately react to say, hey, don't you dare disrespect me. You know, you are not even thinking about why is this child banging the door. You know, so well, with that example, that is what I can say the difference is. But in life, when you respond to issues, you just sit down and think about it, and then you come with a possible cause for action.
When I interview students of John Maxwell, I ask them normally to share their favorite quotes. My favorite one is John Maxwell quotation is when he says, people don't care. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. So I would like you to share some of your favorite quotes of your teacher.
Leadership is influence. Yes, that's what he says. So your ability to influence the ones that you are leading is what leadership is.
Why is that important to you?
Because you live as a person to impact lives. So if you are not able to impact or influence those that are around you, then what are you doing?
Okay. Any other quotation?
That's my favorite. That's the one that I live by.
Yeah. Basically, it ties with another one of his, which says everything rises and falls on leadership. I think he is emphasized. Yes.
Okay. And also when you look at parenting is really about leadership. How well are you able to influence your children to be the best versions of themselves? Not yourself, themselves.
That's true. Okay, here's your chance to ask me a question. But before you do, can you answer the crystal ball question? What that means is what you see coming out of conscious parenting 10, 15, 20 years down the line, even for yourself as a brand, as an individual. What do you see if you look at that crystal ball?
Okay. Well, I honestly believe that healing of the world, like I said at the beginning, is the healing of individuals. And when we heal one family at a time, one community will be healed, the nation will be healed. So the vision or the dream of the conscious parent is to really help families to connect well with those that, as family members and as that with their children, so that they thrive. They will go out of that particular house as a thriving child, meet other children at school who are thriving, who are content, who know who they are, who are healed inside. And then they go and meet at the workplace children who or colleagues who are like that. So this is the dream and the vision that I have for the conscious parent, to really spread this message as much as I can in Botswana and internationally, to say, let us raise our children well so that we can have better communities. Of course, it cannot be 100%.
So is it going to be an institute, or is it going to be offices all over the country? What organization are you envisaging a decade or two from now?
Okay, I'm thinking about something that is still in the pipeline, but with this one, it's mainly going to be an online type of it is an online type of business where I interact even with people from America or from wherever online, and we do this thing together online. So when you ask about offices, the office can be in my bedroom for now or wherever in my house. But of course, I would want to, at some point, once I'm established, to have offices, proper offices, and have a studio like this one where I can just have interviews with people. Yes.
Wonderful. All right, here's your chance to ask me a question.
Okay, Mogobe, my question would be, I see you are a prominent businessman. So what I would want to know from you is, how did you get here?
Well, it would take me a whole day to relate my story. I'm actually even writing a book, so maybe you should wait for that book to come out. But in a nutshell, it's a story of faith and persistence. It's a story of being lucky enough to be brought up by parents who are very supportive, and being fortunate enough to have a very wonderful spouse who works with me, and having a support team which includes my children as well, who are two of whom are working in the organization, and then trying to build on that and consciously and consistently trying to grow the brand, and being driven by that tagline which is in the nuggets, which we enthuse, we energize, we inspire, we empower, and trying to, in the process, energize and empower others. So it was through those conscious efforts, undergirded by the faith and the personal development efforts, which is really about constantly reading and trying to develop oneself. But it's a work in progress. It's trial and error, but hopefully we're getting somewhere. But as far as I'm concerned, we're only getting started as an organization. But hopefully we're getting there.
All right. Yeah, it's very interesting that you are starting. That's a very interesting part.
Yeah.
Because when someone is looking, they don't think it's starting. Maybe in the middle, or maybe one quarter away from.
Yeah, just to express the idea that we're still growing. We're hoping to reach a lot higher than where we are. Look at that camera and tell the viewer, leave the viewer with some few motivational words, some parting words, something to take home, as it were, from our conversation about conscious parenting, etc.
Thank you, viewers there at home. What I want to say to you is that raising our children is a very integral part of our role as parents. They rely on us, they depend on us to give them the right way, to mentor them into becoming who God or the Maker has really created them to be. So really we cannot leave this to chance. We need to be intentional. We need to build our muscle. It's not an easy thing, and it's a journey that does not end. I don't know when it ends, maybe when we are no longer here, but it's a journey that we embark on as parents, and we need to enjoy this journey. It does not have to be a painful journey. We need to understand that it can be enjoyed with its challenges, yes, with its ups and downs, yes, but when we are intentional and when we are intentional about wanting to understand what we ought to do, then we can enjoy it. So you have people like me who are vested really into helping parents who are struggling. My purpose really is to help those who are struggling raising their teenagers, who are finding it difficult to really relate well with their teenage children. And I do have programs that I take parents through to help them have those connected and thriving relationships with their teenagers. So I trust that you will not struggle alone. Know that the conscious parent is here through Tumelo, Queen Leene.
Wonderful. Would you care to share your contact details and where they can reach you?
Okay.
Even on social media?
Okay, our Facebook page is The Conscious Parent, and our email address is theconsciousparent@gmail.com or info@tumeloleene.com. My cell number is 71333219.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've been a great guest. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mr. Mogobe. Thank you.